Imagine what it must have been like to travel from Pennsylvania to the northern Virginia frontier to carve out a living in the wilderness. This was a journey taken by many Quakers who saw opportunity in the vast acres of land made available after colonial expansion pushed the indigenous people westward. Quakers were members of the Society of Friends, many of whom lived in William Penn's colony of Pennsylvania, where they escaped European religious intolerance. One of the earliest Quaker pioneers to emigrate south to Virginia was John Meade, who with his father-in-law had 703 acres of unclaimed land on Catoctin Creek surveyed for settlement. Meade, who acquired the land in 1733, was a carpenter, a valuable skill to have on the frontier. At this time, Virginia was a colony of England, and all of the land between the Potomac and Rappahannock rivers, including Meade's land, comprised the Northern Neck Proprietary. In 1733, the year John Meade acquired his land, he leased a portion to Amos Janney, a fellow Quaker from Chester, Pennsylvania, who with his wife Mary and their young children traveled along paths and forded streams to arrive in Virginia and settle along the Catoctin. He carried with him a certificate dated 1733 showing that he was a Quaker in good standing. Once here, Janney had to clear the land for farming and establish paths to his neighbors. A survey plat for land near Janney's farm depicts a stream named Amos's Branch. This appears to be the small stream that borders present-day Clark's Gap Road as you enter the village of Waterford. Another portion of the plat shows a path from Amos Janney's to Thomas John's. This path is in the vicinity of present-day Loyalty Road. Janney leased his farm for about 4 years before Meade sold about 253 acres to Janney. Presumably, this was the farm Janney leased. Meade then sold 147 acres to David Griffith in 1742, and the balance of the tract, amounting to 303 acres, to Francis Haig, who happened to be Janney's brother-in-law. At some point, the Janney family acquired the Griffith parcel, thus enlarging the Janney farm to 400 acres. Francis Haig lived on the northern portion of the tract, and Amos Janney to the south. With the size of tenant farms averaging between 150 and 200 acres, Haig and Janney needed to entice a great many families to come to Virginia to lease their land. They succeeded, and more Quaker families formed communities in the area. Tobacco was likely the principal crop in the early days. At Francis Haig's death, he owned a number of old hogsheads, which were large barrels used to transport tobacco to warehouses at the ports. Grain was also grown and ground into flour. Sheep were raised in the area and their wool spun into yarn, and cows provided milk and beef. Tobacco cultivation was labor-intensive. It is unknown if the earliest Quakers in the area used enslaved labor extensively. Francis Haig had an African-American man named Isaac listed in his household from at least 1758 to 1765. In 1755, the Society of Friends began discouraging its members from buying, selling, and owning slaves. This is because some Quaker pioneers lived in captivity with Native Americans. Their brethren embraced the precept, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." This prohibition did not extend, however, to purchasing the indentures of convicts transported to America by the English courts. Convicts came to the northern neck of Virginia by the tens of thousands prior to the American Revolutionary War. Christopher Fidds, an Irish convict, was sentenced in 1758 to 14 years' transportation. He slipped away from Francis Haig near the Quaker Meeting House. Haig put an advertisement in the Virginia Gazette offering a reward for his return. Rather than carrying a telltale sack, Fidds wore 2 sets of clothes when he ran away. Amos Janney died when he was about 46 years old, and his young son, Mahlon Janney, inherited his real estate. In 1755, Mahlon donated land where the Quaker Meeting House was built, and 7 years later he purchased a lot of land from his uncle Francis Haig and built a grist mill and a sawmill. The first story of the original grist mill was built of stone and the second story of wood. The mill dam was about 1,000 yards upstream and conveyed water to the mill via a long earthen mill race. Once the mill was built, the court ordered roads to be built to the mill. This established a foundation for the second generation of Quakers to reshape the landscape after the Revolutionary War, when a new federal nation was born.